Hey, nomads. How are you guys doing today? Hope you all have had a wonderful day. It is day 3 of my 40-day journey with you all, and I'm so excited about our conversation today. And what we're going to be talking about is motivations. So, what does that mean? Motivations. Um, Basically, what it means is what is your motivation? What is your why? What is your reason for doing what you do? And when I say that, after I ask those questions, I typically get answers that are very external. Very external. Oh, my parents, or I do it for my family and my kids, and very rarely do you hear a person's motivation be for themselves, like something deep inside is as their reason. And that's a bit troubling because when all of that is gone, all you have is you. At the end of the day, all you have is you. And your peace of mind, your fulfillment, self fulfillment is all yours. It's not something that you should necessarily put on hold. I feel like people tend to put things like that on hold if they're parents, especially. They feel like they have to sacrifice themselves for the sake of their children. It's as they become martyrs and have to do all of these things. But one thing that I tell people all the time though is that motivations change. They do. And that's usually the hardest part for people when they realize that motivation, the thing that they felt like they were doing it for, is no longer making them feel alive or keeping them going. They then decide that, they're sad, they're depressed, they're wondering what is their purpose in life. So they start to reflect and assess again. But that's okay. I think it's very important that we allow ourselves to know that it is okay, that we are going to pivot. You are going to change your motivation at least 3 times in your life. Your motivation will change. But in the meantime, what I want you to do is I want you to try to figure out what makes you feel alive. What makes you, I don't want to so much use the word happy, because happy is, it can be a temporary feeling. It's not something that sticks with us. But I like to use the word alive. I even hear people say, well, what about passion? Find your passion and that will be your motivation. Sure. But don't be like me and be a passion pimp. And what that means is I love the idea of starting something new, learning something new. And I get into it, I get involved, I buy the newest of the newest. I remember buying rollerblades because I was going to be this rollerblade person. Bought the newest of the new, probably rollerbladed all of 3 times. And then I decided, you know what? I'd rather move on to something else. So if you're a passion pimp, what will happen is you'll have a lot of ups and downs and ebbs and flows to what that is. It becomes almost lustful. Like you see something and you want it. Like, oh, we used to call that pole mouth in the hood. You see somebody eating something and you want it, just because you see them eating it. But then when you get it, you realize you don't really like it. So I think it's important that you explore for sure. So as a passion pimp, for me, I'm an explorer. I'm a passion. I'm running through passions. I run through them. But I'm always exploring, and what that does is that does let me know what I'm not into. And it lets me know that it is okay to move on. That's important as well, is to know that it is okay to move on and to let go if it does not serve you anymore. Because things will get to that point where it's just no longer working. And you have to be okay with the idea of failing, the idea of maybe quote unquote disappointing other people because you're no longer who they thought you were, because that happens when you have to change. I remember living in New York at one point, and it I had recession hit. I had lost my job, and I remember calling home and saying, you know what, I think I'm, gonna stick it out for a little bit. But I was so upset because, you hear when you live in New York, if you can survive in New York, you can survive anywhere, right? Well, I lived in New York for 6 years before all of this went down, right? I had survived a layoff prior to this layoff, and my mom had to tell me something. She said, don't always look at things as when you have to move on as it being you failed. And that was real, because that's how I had always looked at things. I always looked at it like I have to finish it, I have to complete it, I have to see it to the end. But in life, there is no, the journey just kind of goes. There is no definite end other than death. That is the definite end. So there's always change. There's always modifications and movements and adjustments that are being made in our journeys, in the chapters of our lives. That's why people call it that. But I think it's important when we talk about like motivation and knowing your why. Like, why do you feel like you need to stay? And it took somebody else to say, so your motivation is that you don't fail? Like, that is what's motivating you? That's fear. That's fear-based motivation. And you can never be happy when you're motivated by failing, when your motivation is fear-based. It has to be based in love. Somehow you have to figure out, how do you base your motivation in love? And I think that's why parents can get away with using their kids, because they feel like that's the greatest motivation is my kids, which is great. But again, like I said, kids will move on, they will leave, and then you're left. There you are, you. And then what? So find your motivation. And if you don't know how to find your motivation, I can certainly give you some questions that you can ask yourself. Are you motivated by material things? Are you motivated, like, what makes you, again, the alive thing? And if you don't know what it is, then it's time for you to begin your journey, Divine Nomad. It is time. If you don't know, it's time to start to search and look for it. It's not comfortable, it's not fun, but it actually is a little bit fun. It's all about perception and perspective, of how you feel about starting something and realizing, yes, this is it, this is great, I love it, and then seeing that you love it for maybe 25% of what it is and not 100% of what it is. You're never going to love it all for a whole bunch of things, but the idea of being able to explore is important. So as we move into our day 4, before we do, I definitely want you to, if you have any questions about motivations and how do you find a more internal motivation, not so much an external, outside of yourself motivation, don't feel free to reach out to me. Follow me on Twitter at The Divine Nomad. Follow me on Instagram, The Divine Nomad. Follow and like my page on Facebook, Divine Nomad, and check out my blog at divinenomad.com. And I look forward to talking to you guys tomorrow. See you soon. Peace out. Be home. Peace, love, happiness, joy, and peace of mind. Have a great night. Bye-bye.